welcome. I am so excited to introduce Mocha to you, Mocha-Mystique. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful name. So
Thank you.
Mocha-Mystique is a mind and body magician. She leads healers, coaches, and bodyworks to fully embrace and embody their creative spirit so they can experience freedom and tap into the limitless bounds of abundance. 8,000 clients. That is an impressive number of people that you have worked with. I mean, wow. And so welcome to our conversation today. Mocha is an author in the book Sacred Wisdom, and we are doing a book launch on Wednesday at 10:30 Pacific time. So we'll remind you at the end of the call, but this is exciting.
It's here.
It's here.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Here we go. Here is the proof copy. So of course it does not come with the band. This just says not for resale, but that's what a proof copy of a book looks like.
Oh my gosh.
And so I had a flip through it, and let me just pop over to your page.
Can I tell you how excited I am, Pamela? Because this has been a journey.
It has
Like,
been.
it has been a journey. It's been an amazing journey. And I'm just taking in your words right now and celebrating and just integrating it into my mind and body, because that is something I have to regularly practice, like to celebrate those moments and not just let it be a bleep in time.
Right. And we're officially in launch for the book, which will include the event, but it doesn't stop there. You know,
Exactly.
This is in writing and publishing a book. The big work actually starts now.
Yeah.
Because as much as it's a journey to write your story, which is a fabulous story, and your chapter is amazing. It's called Discover Your Truth and Free the Body, Navigating Trauma and Pain. And in that, you talk a lot about the mind, body, heart coherence, and we'd love for you to speak a little bit more about that.
Yeah, something I've discovered with not only myself, but it also resonated with clients, is depending on their journey. If they've dealt with a journey that's been full of physical trauma, maybe injury and illness like I did, and or maybe they haven't dealt with the physical aspect of things, but it's been all mental. We're taught so much to be in the mental, in the mind. Everything is so cerebral. Then there's this disconnect. And then they say, well, you've got to get into an alignment. And what does that really mean? And for some, it's just being at peace in the mind. For others, it's figuring out how to bring the mind and body together. But I think the other piece is also the heart as well, bringing that mind, body, and heart in order to lead from a state of alignment in all three versus being just in one place or the other. And life creates that separation. Life, the responses, things that happen to us, there's such a separation that happens. So it's learning how to, I love teaching people how to be in and with their body and actually allow the sensory of the body to be the start of what governs the choices that they make.
Well, and I know for myself, I've spent my whole life up in my head. You know, I'm a thinker, I'm a feeler, but there's been a huge disconnect between what I feel, like the thought that I have, and then how I feel about it. And then I automatically go and rearrange that in my mind so that there is a disconnect.
Right. And generally what happens in the body, a lot of people, something will happen and then the body, it'll be this inconvenience. Like, I don't have time for this, or why is this happening to me now? Or we've been taught basically to stop the inconvenience, stop the moment for whatever that is. If it's a cut, we want to quickly like have it mend. Or if we twist an ankle, it's like, oh, why does this happen now? Heaven forbid we have to, take a pause. So those fractal moments in time, they really impact us. And so that's where a lot of the disconnect comes in, is the conversation that we have with our body, forgetting that our body's listening. Our body's listening to everything. And I sometimes will tell my clients the simplest thing. If you're teaching your body how to do something, let's say it's a new exercise or whatever, but even the simplest moments, pick up a pen, do this, put my earbuds in, those are all instructions. So then in times that are not great, right? Like we fall or we have an injury or there's an illness, that conversation is still instruction. And I think we forget that at times. So it's that shift in the mind of what if we use the sensory to allow us to explore more the depth of our next steps for the things that we're doing. You know, when something's numb, people look at it as a negative, but it's not always a negative for some.
Well, it's two things. One is I think a really important point you mentioned was about pausing.
Yeah.
Instead of just defaulting and for me jumping back into my head and analyzing it or going into a story about it, to just pause and I see you, I see the thought, I feel that emotion. Let me be in my body.
Yeah.
Let me go for a walk so I can integrate whatever just happened,
Mhm.
instead of doing what is default for me, which is just ignoring it and moving on to the next thing.
Yeah,
One of
I like to call it the power of the pause even. I mean, we're taught that in some facets in sales. Those who talks first, those who speak first loses in some aspects, right? So I'll even teach that with some of my students in body work that I'm like, let your client speak. Do not fill the room with your voice. You have to give their body a chance to catch up, to let you know what's happening, what's going on. And if they've lived in the mind for a really long time, that is not going to be a fast conversation. Right. So I always tell them, keep your mouth shut, let them say something first. And even if it's uncomfortable, let it be uncomfortable because that discomfort will disrupt the pattern.
Mhm. And I do believe that great leaders are great listeners.
Mhm. Yeah.
They let others, because that's where the information comes through, is allowing other people to speak and truly listening, not listening and thinking, oh, this is what I'm going to say next, or this is how I want to respond, because I'm still back at the beginning of whatever they had started talking about, and then missing some important information. So we really have to listen deeply. And I think
Right.
that's super important. And we're not trained to do that. We're trained to fill in the gaps. So if
Yes.
there is a pause, we've been conditioned to, oh, I better jump in because the
Mhm.
pause is comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the go, go, go. The
Yeah.
go, go, go of gotta be here, gotta do that, gotta catch the next, whatever.
Mhm.
You can actually get your body to catch up if you like the cerebral aspect of the go, 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 but it's being completely conscious with the body and then understanding, knowing, and that's what I love to teach, how to know those sensory triggers of go and slow,
Mhm.
right? What is the body asking you to do? But I love that quote that you said that about the great leaders, because if we were to take that and bring that to ourselves, what if we were you know, owned up to that power of the pause within our own body and
Mhm.
led from that state
Yeah. Yeah. Because we
and
are
not give
all
it, yeah,
great.
yeah, and not give it meaning,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Because we're already great. I love the saying that came through me several years ago, is that we're born extraordinary, but we're conditioned to be ordinary. We're
Mhm.
already extraordinary,
Yeah.
right? We're already great. We're already leaders because we lead in our own life. Even if it's, with the family, with a team, with whomever, we're already leaders. And so
Absolutely.
being able to bring all that in. And the other point that was really powerful in your chapter for me is pain is information.
Yes.
Do you speak more about that?
It's I think we've been taught that pain is something to either be bandaged, you know, put something on it to ignore it, cut it out, do something to get rid of the pain. Whether it's especially if it's physical pain. A lot of people, if they've had, again, like I've gone through a lot of illness and injury, and it was always, what can I do to get out of this pain? On the flip side of the mental pain, then you've got like the emotional pain. I've got a dear friend going right now, and she's dealing with the pain of heartbreak. And from that, the pain of that, the mental pain. So all the pains that we have, and we so much want to judge it or put it on a shelf and be like, I don't have time to deal with this. Just like a slip, trip, or a fall, right? just like that. It's not convenient, it's not serving us, and we don't allow our bodies that ability to process, to find out what information could it be, because of the conditioning that we experience, the conditioning that tells us that pain is something to be judged, not to be had. It can be a create weakness, you know, the suck it up
Yeah.
conversations that we have, pull up your big girl, big boy pants and just do the thing, where for some people that can be something that provides the inspiration to do the next. And then for other people, it can be very damaging
Yeah. It
because
can
it's this
withdraw.
chasing, this judgmental, I have to fix myself. I can't come from a place of wholeness. And so I like to help people understand that information in order to help them to get to their next, because the very thing that they're avoiding is places that they're hiding themselves and not acknowledging the wholeness of who they are. And so a lot of information can be unpacked in that in so many different ways through the emotional body, the physical body, and even the cerebral. But I definitely, that's where the alignment comes in, is if it's locked into the cerebral, whatever that story is of what people think pain to be, it can be unlocked through the layers.
And you provide a fairly lengthy list of all of those things that we say to ourselves, like the one about pull up your big girl, big boy pants, right? Like those subconscious messages that just go through our minds, and we've said them so many times to ourselves, we don't even notice. So
Yeah.
mine was, it doesn't matter. So somebody didn't want to do over and over again, somebody didn't want to do what I wanted to do and wanted to do something different
Mhm.
consistently over a long period of time. And my default was, oh, it doesn't matter. But then I
Mhm.
realized a few years ago, what I was really saying to myself is, I don't matter.
Exactly.
That's why it's so important to notice what those messages are that you're subconsciously fueling yourself with.
Absolutely.
So
Right?
I love that, being able to receive the information that's in your chapter to help open the doorway a little bit, right? To
Mhm.
see that, pain is just information. And how do we shift that?
Right. And
Yeah.
what if it was looking at it from the lens of, this is just a disruption
Mhm.
to get me through to the next? Like, we look at triggers as information to get us closer to what we want. Right. And the thing that people forget is, if we looked at it without I know I say come into alignment, but without the emotional body of the meaning that we attach to it, just from the perspective of it's just a place of information, that's where we can allow for growth versus that stagnation of getting stuck in it and
Mhm.
being in it. And it can happen. I mean, I was stuck in a lot of places for a long time with some of the injuries that happened to me and having to recover over and over again. So it definitely was, there were a lot of places in my life where I wanted to avoid. I didn't want to have to deal with it, didn't want to have to navigate that. But pain is also okay. Sometimes it just needs to be present.
Yeah.
But
And
it's,
it's
what do we fill the space with?
Yeah. And like with my granddaughter, for example, like she's very in tune with her body. She's a gymnast and she's very in tune with her body. But it's like teaching her that your body heals. It's just like, I use the analogy of, you scrape your knee, you don't have to watch it to heal. Your body just knows how to do that.
Right.
And
Right.
so that's kind of opening the doorway to being able to understand that our body heals on its own, but for me, the thoughts get in the way that prevent us from actually seeing it and being able to recognize that pain is information, right?
Right.
And you have a beautiful quote in the book. Let me just see if I can put my fingers on it right away. Uh,
Well, and I was thinking too, while you're looking for that,
yeah.
when we look at our body, I know I looked at it when in my younger years, it was just a tool. It was a machine. It was this, like I've said in the book, it just got me up and down the field because everything in my life was sports at the time. So, breasts were an inconvenience. God forbid I had a period. It was everything. Could I avoid having a period because I didn't want to, right? So, all of the things of just being the natural parts of being a woman, I wanted nothing to do with, because it disrupted my time. I got a game. I got a game. Come on now. Right. I don't have time for this. And so but all of those things, when we think of all the things we try to even stop in our life, we try, like, we come into this world, we're good with puberty, we're good with all the things because it's just what happens. But then think of like how many women, oh, I got to stop the menopause. But when I think of it as a whole, we were all created to go through some type of a change physically in our body, but we have been conditioned for aging. We've been conditioned about menopause. We've been conditioned to think these things, and those start on early.
Mhm.
They start, I was at a luncheon and I was overhearing, there was a woman there and her daughter was there. The daughter was in her 20s and they were talking about menopause. And she's already in her 20s, got her idea of what it is. It's going to be this thing that I've got to prepare for. I don't want to go through it. I can't believe this. So she's already got the self-talk starting at a very early age.
Mm.
But I've also met women who didn't do the self-talk and they just decided to acknowledge and be with their body and literally went through menopause and all of the symptoms overnight, literally. And they do not deal with the same symptoms that other women carry on and on and on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those are those conversations of in and out of alignment. And you can choose to rewire the brain. You can choose to believe it happened or it didn't, right? You can call those women that don't deal with menopause because of their thinking liars. You can do whatever you want because it's your story,
Yeah.
right? But we so get ingrained with our stories that we have to have the evidence over and over to feel comfortable with it because of our prior conditioning.
Yeah. So here's the quote: pain is only information, whether it's emotional, physical, or spiritual. And I think you want to add cerebral in there too, right? Like, is that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And when experienced, it can be some of the best information to guide us to our truth, yet we deny it time and time again. And it is such a profound statement. And we
I
have
even feel it in my body just hearing my own words. I'm like, oh,
yeah. And I
because I
love
did it for so long.
Yeah. Oh, same. I mean, and I am just learning, like that's the thing I love about the work that I do is I learn from you as an author. You bring new information that I've never experienced before. And I get to see that firsthand and I get to embody it because I've read it several times.
Yeah.
By
Oh,
the
I didn't
time,
even think of it
by the
that way.
Yeah,
Mm.
right? And so, that's my role is to be the spiritual librarian to document this information.
Yeah.
Right? So we have a couple of people on. So Valerie loves the comment, we're all born extraordinary. And she also says being in a hurry and rushing around is not a badge of honor. Right? We
No,
need,
no.
right? To embrace that it's we think it's a badge of honor to be busy and our life is full and I don't have time and I can't do that because I don't have time, and it's like we have time for all of the things that are a priority to us.
Right. And the badge of honor, it makes me think of a story.
Yeah.
So it might poke the bear and some people, whatever, it's my opinion.
Yeah.
And at a very young age, I dealt with my mom having stage 4 cancer, which a lot of people don't know. She battled it twice. And believe it or not, the state actually came in and intervened, thinking they decided that she wasn't fit because she was dying and she was so sick. So they pulled us away and we were sent to live with my grandparents. And she doesn't talk about it, one, because it's just her, even though I just like, outed you, mom, sorry. But the reason that it's not something that she brings up in her life, it was something she was able to learn from. And in that, it was also at a young age, we're not into the, and this is where it may poke the bear, not into the ribbons, not into the survivor, not into any of that. Not because, and she pulled through, she was not supposed to make it either time. And so what I saw was a lot of powerful things that she was able to be done to still live and walk this earth today because of the choices she make and not being in the box based upon what society told her, number one. Number two, her choice to not be a survivor kept her out of that victim aspect, because there is a line, in my opinion, between being a survivor and somebody that chooses to thrive. You can be a survivor, but it's not a badge of honor to wear your entire life, because that means your body's always in that state of fight or flight, looking for the next, for the next, for the next. It's not, it doesn't serve the body to be into that. So being in that place of, I've got to do the thing, wear the ribbon, it would be a shift of, I survived this, and what's next? The ribbon is the celebration, not in the element of fear of, what if it happens again? What if I have to deal with this? Right? So there's that interesting line that happens. And then that's also where there's a rub, right? For the people that do and don't find me, because the people that offends, let it offend. They're not my people, because I do not want to be in that state of where there's always this lack vibration or frequency that's, you've got to pull people up versus, can we walk together? Walk together. Here's the next, here's the next, here's the next.
Yeah, and because we're all navigating different experiences, be them hardship, be
Yes.
them dis-ease in the body,
Mhm.
whatever it is, relationships. I believe life is 50-50. 50% of the
Yes.
time it's extraordinary, and 50% of the time you've got challenges. And it's how
Mhm.
you navigate that. And I have a new understanding of the statement that life happens for me. Because when we can look at everything that happens, there is something for us to learn from, for us to navigate, for us to see the obstacle or the channel or the challenge and be able to move through that. And when we have hindsight, then we can go, oh, this is what my body needed to learn. This is what I needed to do to up level myself.
Mhm. Right. I hear you, and I'm also in that next stage of consciousness of, I'm teetering of the life happens for me, and life happens through me, because
Right.
then there's a next from that. Right?
Mhm.
It's like the
Yeah.
ribbon moment. Like, I want
Mhm.
to be in the where life is happening through me,
Yeah.
not just for me, so that I can
Exactly.
be the
Yeah.
vessel of who I am, what I'm here to offer, and the wholeness of me coming through that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
even in that, there is that next stage.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Right?
And yeah, and it's it's an evolution, right? Like we go
Yes.
through the part where it's like life happens, understanding that everything that happens is for me,
Mhm.
right? And then that opens up the vessel to be able to bring that channel through where we are stewards of the
Yeah.
gifts that we have.
Yeah. And I'll say I'm not there yet,
Yeah.
but I know there's a next.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because when in my early years, where like I even talked about in the book, it was, life is happening to, like, why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
Right? I even mentioned that in the book, that it
Mhm.
was just, and it was very, even writing this book was not easy. It brought up a lot of stuff that I buried. I can
And
remember moments where I'm like, I tried to back out of this book with you so many times, because it was forcing me to go through my stuff. I was thinking about the experience, like I fell apart because it brought up when I told you about the drive-by shooting, and it brought up all of that. Like, I
yeah,
remember being in that bathroom, like on the floor, like on a nasty floor in a house I didn't know. And just by the time we got up, bullet holes everywhere. Like, it was just so much, and just other random traumas that I've
yeah,
never shared with anybody, that are, you know, unique. We all have our unique experiences, and I'm not the only one that's gone through something like that, but how we deal with that,
mhm,
you know,
yeah, yeah,
is very different. Like, I can't do this. I can't write this book.
and I think for for you, it was things like you said you've never shared publicly before.
I never shared them publicly, and I never, one of my besties, she always talks about, do you deny reality? And there were pieces of reality but I learned to do that. What's interesting, I learned to do that with the things that were hard, but also my celebrations.
Mhm,
And
right.
interestingly enough, that was just pointed out to me about a week ago, that some of the things that I have done are not just normal things that people do that I just have skipped over,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. 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 And I think you mentioned the shooting just so people are not looking for it in the books. I don't think you go into detail about that, but you
I
go
don't
in.
think I even brought it up. There's a lot I did not
Yeah.
bring up.
Yeah.
There's,
Right. Like
there's,
that's another story.
mhm.
And because we have so many of them. And I think one of the things that happens when you're invited to write your story is it gets you thinking about of the literally hundreds of thousands, I don't know, millions of stories that we can write about
Yeah.
through our life, especially as we are in our later years of 40, 50, 60, 70. There's more because we're having new experiences. And
Right.
so it's what stories do I want to tell in this particular chapter or book, right? And so
Right.
there's so many. And
Mhm.
because we've lived and we all live these rich lives of experiences of the things that we came here to experience and to learn and to help us to evolve to our higher way of being within this body.
Mhm. Well, and like I was telling you, like even the tagline, right, that I have is your fascia holds the codes. And in this experience with writing the book, it was like the shooting, for example, and just other events that I shared with you. What it started doing was it was forcing me to it was forcing me to process the stories that people didn't know about, the stories that I didn't tell, the stories that people knew, but only because they were there experiencing with me. And then we all experienced it. But all the stuff that I stored in my body over and over and over and over, the, and a lot of, and in the, the illness of, the illness and injury and just things that I suffered, just random stuff. This is my whole life, like
Yeah.
truly. And so it was just peeling of all the things when a lot of times when we do have an event and we're medicated or we're in the hospital for something and we're put under, our body still has to process that. Like when we come to, or we come out of a surgery, or we come out of taking meds, or whatever it is we're doing, we still have to process that at some point. The time duration is the judgment of what we think has to be done. They always say healing takes time. It doesn't have to. We can honor the body. We can choose to have it have a duration, or we can just let it be. But I
Mhm.
didn't process
Right.
any of it. I chose to just walk away, not
Oh,
take in any inner information, not deal with my pain, not deal with the heart, not deal with anything. And interestingly enough, there were times in my life with not dealing with the heart, I had circulation issues. A stroke at 30 wakes you up to your heart, literally, physically,
yeah.
right?
And we haven't been conditioned to do that. We haven't been conditioned to something happens and to process the pain, to process the what we've just experienced. It's like we just move on to the next thing,
Right.
right? And
And it's
that's
usually for material. That's what's crazy. I got to get back to work. I got to pay the bills. I got to do the thing. I got a family to feed. I got a dog to walk. Like those are all mine, right? It was just, and looking back, it all worked out. But in the moment, there's this panic. There's this, back to the, I don't have time for this.
yeah. Well, and I
I've got a deadline for a book, don't you know?
and she wants me to rewrite it again. She wants me to go deeper. She
How
wants
many times do I have to, right? All the things.
all the things. Oh my. But this is so true. And we've had a lovely conversation. I told you a half hour was going to go really fast. This is
Shut the
true.
front door. Seriously? We're there? Oh my gosh. See, you and I can get talking, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I could talk to you forever.
All right. Okay. So I would like for you to
I'm in.
just, is there one more piece of a final word of wisdom for our listeners?
Buy the book, man. Come on.
Come to our launch party.
Come to the launch party. Buy the book.
Enjoy more of these conversations with
Exactly.
Mocha-Mystique and the other authors. And can you share with the listeners where they can find you?
They can find myself. I do spend a lot of time on Facebook and also my website, mocha-mystique.com. Those
Mhm.
are the two places. But yeah, I think What I love is that I love the sacred wisdom aspect. I love the pieces of everything that we're sharing. And even though the stories are so vastly different, if you don't take them from separation, but take it from wholeness, from where our body wants to be, how they all come together and how they all fold and blend in, there is going to be a layer of wisdom that you're going to see each and every time you read it.
Yeah.
And each and every time you go to pick that up, bring it in, or if something, I just truly hope that somehow something that we've shared allows you to look at something through another perspective or another lens
Mhm. Yeah.
in your own journey.
Yeah. And I do believe there is so much wisdom in this book. And it is going to be a book that that people can read from front to back, but they can also open it up, and there's a passage, that is just to be able to absorb that, right?
Yeah,
One of the ones that you say, a common phrase I hear people say is, I tried everything. Many of us have tried that, right? Many of
yes.
us have said that. I mean, and there's just like, and to be able to just read a short passage from any of the chapters, any of the words in the book, and be able to just read it and then contemplate and see what that brings up in your own inner wisdom.
Yeah,
Because everybody has inner wisdom. And I do believe that it is the words that come through us and the messages that come to us through other people are potent for us to really acknowledge and just tune into what's that for me, right?
absolutely. I
Yeah.
was thinking about the journey and just the women in this book, and there is an essence of each of them that also is a part of my own story. And like I knew it, but now as we're here and it's all come together, Kristen with the numerology, and I love numerology, and I bring numerology into my own work and into the body work as well. And Ariana with the dogs, and of course I'm a dog lover, and Valerie with the pilgrimage piece, and something that I wanted to do and I shelved, and just the pieces and facets. I just find it interesting, the blend of how we came together, and the intertwined aspect of the stories. Even though you may not read it in print, there's an underlying, almost like a vortex, that I think this book will pull people into, truly,
Yeah.
if they allow it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
this
you.
conversation. It is always lovely talking with you and being able to exchange these words of wisdom and this sacred wisdom that comes through in these conversations. And also to our listeners, thank you. And if you have any questions for Mocha-Mystique, please put them down in the comments. Leave her a message. We will get back to you. And thank you so much for being here live and also on the replay.
Thank you.
Thank you.